Hey, what is going on everybody, and welcome back for another Pokemon Challenge Run video. Today I'll be seeing if I can take on Pokemon Infinite Fusion with Gengar fusions only. The rules. I'm allowed to change my team around as needed. Every Pokemon on my team must be fused with a Gengar fusion. There's no items or held items allowed in battle. And finally, no overleveling past the given level cap. Before we start our journey, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below what you think is the coolest fusion in this video and what Pokemon I should do next. I start out the game by naming myself KTT and my rival, Dirty, like normal. Then I go pick my starter. First I see a Shieldon, a Klefki, and a Trico. Of course, me being the Gen 3 type of person I am, I pick Trico. I try to head out on my journey before Dirty stops me for a quick battle. Dirty ends up getting both of the other two left and fuses them to make a Shieldki, who he uses Fairy Lock a couple times, Protect a couple times. I just keep spamming Absorb, and eventually I actually take him out. Good start to the run finally. Didn't lose to my rival in the first battle. After that, I grab Oka's parcel, give it back to him, before I find my first new team member, Ghastly. I use the randomizer option, so usually before I start my runs, I'm not 100% who I'm actually going to be doing in the run, so I figured out once I saw the Ghastly, I decided I want to do a Gengar only run. So I went and I caught 6 total Ghastlys in the same little patch of grass, and I gave them all names. We've got Luna, Roman, Sage, Jet, 2 T's, Piper, and Mason. After that, I went and I fused my starter Pokemon with one of the Ghastlys to make a pretty cool looking Trico and Ghastly fusion. Right after that, I also found a Blaziken, which I grabbed and I fused together with one of the Ghastlys to make a really cool looking Ghastly fusion. It looks like some type of missing now, and I really like it. After that, I grab a Rotom and I fuse him with one of the Ghastlys to make another cool looking fusion. Now with 3 team members, I decide to go take on the first gym leader, Brock. He starts off with Geogy. I start off with Luna. I try to Hypnosis it, doesn't work. I keep getting Sand attacked. I end up not really being able to do much to this Geogy, even with 2 levels on it. Eventually though, it manages to take Luna out, so I send out Roman. I try to use Mega Drain. He does a lot of damage to me, but I'm able to take it out, heal up a good amount. Then he sends in Dignex, who I Mega Drain again. He gets put to 1 HP. I barely survive the next hit, put down to 3 HP, and I knock him out, getting us our first gym badge. After that, we head south of Pewter City, over towards Rock Tunnel. We find a big commotion going on, and realize Team Rocket just stormed by. Brock comes over to help us. He stays back to make sure everything's all good with everybody, while I track in and go stop Team Rocket. When in there, I see them trying to triple fuse a Rattata, Ekans, and Sandshrew. So I go try and put a stop to it, before they force the researcher to attack me, Miguel. Miguel has a Cough-mer. I start off with Roman, use a quick Hypnosis, get a little bit of luck, put him to sleep, before trying to chip away at him with all the different moves that I have, but I really don't end up being able to do much, since he has a Dark-type move, which eventually just takes me out. So I send in Jet. He does a little bit of damage before also getting taken out, but he puts him to the red first, so we can send out Luna, and Luna is able to take him out. Team Rocket then actually tries to fuse him this time. The machine malfunctions, and they end up storming off. As a thank you, Miguel allows us to grab one of the 2 fossils he just found. Of course we grab the Helix fossil, and head east of here into Celadon City, where we try to go to Nugget Bridge, before getting stopped by our rival once again. He starts off with his Nidodo, we start off with Jet. We get a good Thunder Shock, do a little bit of damage, and then manage to take it out in the second hit somehow. I thought I wasn't in the range. I thought it was going to get put at 1 HP, but I got a little bit lucky, I guess. So we send out Luna for his next Pokemon, Mantata. We get good damage with a peck and take him out with a second peck before losing little HP. So we swap into Roman for his Shieldki, who we use Mega Drain, get some good damage, uses a Toxic Spike. We get more good damage, Iron Defense, another Mega Drain. We just keep Mega Draining, and eventually we take it out. Last in is Abra, and as you know, Abra really can't do much. I'm pretty sure it only has Teleport at this point, so I just quickly take it out and defeat Dirty. After this battle, Roman actually evolved into a Grovyle Ghastly fusion that's actually pretty nice looking. After getting that new upgrade to our team, we head over to Bill's house, where we find him turning himself into a Rhydon. So, of course, we have to go help him and unfuse him, which, as a thank you gift, he gives us the SSN ticket. Before we head south of here, over towards the SSN and the 3rd gym leader, Lieutenant Surge, we have to take on Misty. Misty starts off with her Jigglydean, which is very easy for me to quickly take out with Roman and his Mega Drains, before she sends out her Audio. I try to use a Fury Cutter at first, I miss, before I just eventually start spamming Mega Drain. She just keeps using Water Pulse. I don't really know why, it's in the part Grass type, but eventually I manage to take it out with Mega Drain, getting us our 2nd gym badge. After this, I get 2 new fusions. One is an Espeon Ghastly fusion, which I really like and I know is going to look really cool with the Gengar. And then a double Ghastly fusion, which looks really cool already, and I'm a really big fan of this, and I want to see what double Gengar looks like. After that, we head on to the SSN, grab the Captain's Key, before Dirty tries to stop us, before we go and talk to the Captain. I lead the fight with Piper. He leads off with Nidodo. This obviously isn't very good for me since he's only level 13, so I swap into Jet, who gets Whirlwinded right into Roman. So I swap back into Jet, I get whirlwinded again, and this just keeps happening for a little bit. I keep trying to swap back into Jet. I don't know why, he just keeps spamming whirlwind. And eventually I try to outsmart him and see if I can whirlwind into Jet, and then he stops using whirlwind as soon as I try to swap into somebody else. So I just start using Luna. I use a hypnosis, get it off, try to do a little bit of damage with Nightshade, use a flame charge, I use another flame charge, get unlucky poison, it uses Twister, I use another flame charge after it heals. Eventually he whirlwinds me out. I don't know why, I would have just fainted on the second turn. To eventually Jet, who manages to take it out. Next in is his Manacade, so we stay in. Jet uses Uproar, gets some good damage off, and takes it off with the second one before getting put to the yellow. Next out is a Starbra, who we keep Jet in, get some good damage with Uproar before getting taken out, and sending in Roman. Roman then quickly takes it out, before Dirty sends out his Bastikey. So we try to use a Pursuit, do no damage, before eventually just using Mega Drain. We just kind of kept going back and forth though, because he was using Draining Kiss. I thought the battle was over, and I was going to actually lose, just because of this. For some reason, he just kept putting spikes on the floor, allowing me to just keep spamming Mega Drain, and eventually take him out. After that, we talk to the captain, we get cut, and head into the third gym. On my first attempt at Lieutenant Surge, he sends out his Volpe, I send out Jet. I tried to just start using electric moves, which I knew wasn't going to do too much, but I thought it would do enough since he's part water type. I just keep spamming it, and eventually I get taken out, but I put him to the red. I send in Roman. Roman then uses a Leaf Blade to finish it off, before he sends out his Pikalit. He gets a Thunder Shock on me, before I use a Leaf Storm to take him out. But I get unlucky static paralyzed for his next Pokemon, Rybuzz. His Rybuzz has Thunder Punch, which I know is just going to do a lot to me, so I try to get some damage off, don't do too much, before getting taken out and having to send out Luna. I'm not able to do almost any damage in this fight. I think I'm going to need a little bit better luck, and maybe even a little bit more grinding if I want to have a chance. On my second attempt at Lieutenant Surge, he starts off with his Volpe. I start off with Roman this time. I just keep spamming Leaf Blades until I eventually take it out, taking a little bit of damage in the process. Next up is his Pikalit, who I one-shot Leaf Storm, getting lucky and not getting paralyzed this time, before I send in Luna. This time I had a better strategy for his Rybuzz. I was going to Rock Tomb it, so that way I could always go first and it has lower speed than me. I try to get some good damage off, I eventually actually get its Berry, luckily, which is going to be good for me in the future. So, after fainting, I send out Jet. I try to use a couple different attacks, thinking I might actually be able to also paralyze it. Turns out you can't Thunder Wave it. The more you know. Before I eventually put him to the yellow and get taken out. Last out is Roman. So I use a Leaf Storm, get some good damage before getting staticked. I almost faint, and then I use another Leaf Storm and get lucky and take him out, defeating Lieutenant Surge and getting us our third gym badge. And right after that, Roman evolved once again, this time from the Haunter side, into pretty much the same Pokemon. After that battle, I make my way through Rock Tunnel, into Lavender Town, and into the Pokemon Tower, and find my rival, Dirty. He starts off with his Kuoto. We start off with Sage, double Ghastly fusion now. I use a couple Nightshades, I just keep spamming Nightshade. He doesn't really do too much to me. He just keeps spamming potions, I just keep spamming Nightshade. Eventually he does a little bit more, puts me down to the red, before I eventually take it out. Next up is his Gyarados. So I send in Jet, because I know it's going to be double effective, the Shockwave, for an easy one-shot. Next out is a Starbra, who I try to Sucker Punch, doesn't do anything. I try to Sucker Punch again, he disables. He doesn't really do anything at all to me actually, before I just start using Thunder Shock and take it out. Last out is his Bastikey. So I send in Roman, use 2 Leaf Blades, and take him out. After this battle, Jet actually evolved, on the Haunter side, into a really nice looking fusion. I love the outlet in the wall there, and Rotom popping out of the mouth. After defeating him, we find Team Rocket up to no good, being mean to this old man. We find out that they're doing something in Cerulean City, so we go head over there and try and stop them. But first, our Ghastly fusion, Sage, actually evolved once and twice. The first evolution looked cool, but the second one was actually awesome. And we had one more evolution, this time it was Luna, which honestly kind of ruined the fusion right now. I'm hoping the Gengar will look as cool as the Ghastly, but who knows. When in Celadon City, we find Dirty fighting some Team Rocket grunts right up front of the sewers. He defeats them before he and them both flee, and Erica shows up. She asks me to help her run through the sewers and stop Team Rocket. So, of course I do. And at the end of these sewers, we find Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket. So, we take him on to stop him. First he starts off with his Arnix. We start off with Sage, which is, may I say, a really cool looking fusion. We quickly use a Shadow Ball, get a good amount of damage off before he max restores. We use another Shadow Ball, he gets a Screech off onto us, and then we use another Shadow Ball to take it out. So we swap into Jet for his Hong Kong, we use a quick T-Wave on it, get the Paralyze, get one hit by a Shadow Ball, so we swap into Piper. Piper then gets a little bit of damage off before getting one hit by a Shadow Ball as well. You might notice this is kind of a problem for me, this Hong Kong, since I can't use Shadow Ball back to it since it's part normal type. So I use a Blaze Kick, get lucky that he's paralyzed and couldn't move, before I get another Blaze Kick off to take it out. I then swap into Roman for his Ryros, who I get good damage off on before eventually getting one shot taken out So we send back in Sage, use a quick Shadow Ball, take it out, and defeat Giovanni. Now that we've defeated Giovanni and saved Celadon City, we grab the Silph Scope off the table and head out of the sewers. When out there, we notice Erica reopened her gym, so we go take her on. So we start off the battle against Erica. She starts off with Executo. We start off with Luna. We get a good Blaze Kick. She does good amount of damage, puts us in the red before she keeps healing. We keep using Blaze Kick. Eventually she swaps into Tanape, who we are able to actually take out without taking any damage. She swaps back into Executo. We Blaze Kick again, take it out, and now it's her last Pokemon, Vilebell. We get another Blaze Kick off, do about half her HP. We get lucky that she missed before we end up taking her out with a second Blaze Kick, defeating Erica, giving us her 4th gym badge. After this, we head back over to Lavender Town and into the Pokemon Tower. While there though, we actually found a new team member. Since I ended up fusing the last 2 Ghastlies that I had, I needed one more. So I caught this Gyarados Ghastly fusion, who I actually kept on the team for a little bit. I ended up swapping his name over to Mason, so that way we now actually have a full team back to all 6 again. Eventually I caught it, put it on the team, made it to the top of the tower, where I found the old man who gave us the Poke Flute. After all that, we head south of here to where the sleeping Snorlax is, who we use the Poke Flute on and wake up. Funny enough, it actually turns out to just be a Ditto and not actually a Snorlax. So I catch it just in case I end up wanting to use it in the future. From here, we keep heading south until we eventually make it to Fuchsia City, the home of the Safari Zone and the 5th gym leader, Koga. We then decide to take him on. He starts off with his Venomer. We start off with Luna. We get a big Blaze Kick, put it to 1 HP, before he ends up actually getting a poison off onto us, poisons us. We just keep using Blaze Kick. He starts healing. Eventually, we actually manage to take it out thanks to a burn. So he swaps into Beether. We use another Blaze Kick. We get down super low. I try to Blaze Kick it again before he swaps into his Magnifying, who I eventually managed to take out with a couple more Blaze Kicks, but I managed to get taken out because of the poison. So I swap into Jet. He swaps back into Beether. He uses an Agility. Doesn't do any damage. I then use a Thunder Shock, take him out, before it comes out his last Pokemon, his ace, Chinook. I was a little worried about this one, so I decided to use a Thunder Wave, hope to get a little bit of luck before he ends up Toxicking me. I try to use a Shadow Ball, but I honestly forgot that this was part Chansey, so it's part Normal type. I just keep on spamming Shockwave, and eventually I do a very little amount of damage because he keeps healing because of Black Sludge, and he eventually takes me out. So I swap into Piper. Piper actually misses because he has high evasiveness right now. I keep trying to use Psybeam to get a little bit of damage off, but eventually I managed to do all of his HP and take him out, getting a little bit lucky in the process, giving us our 5th gym badge. From there, I actually decided to head into the Safari Zone and actually create a new team. While there, I also grabbed Surf. While heading back to Saffron City, Roman actually managed to evolve into a pretty cool looking fusion. Mason actually also ended up evolving too. I actually really like this one, even though it looks a little creepy. And Luna is another evolution we just had, which thankfully it's no longer that Haunter. It's actually a Gengar now. It looks 10 times better. We also had more evolutions, including Jet. I don't know whether I like the other one better or this one, and they're both cool. Sage also ended up evolving, and actually made it look a lot worse. We're going to need another evolution for that one to look better. Piper ended up evolving too, into a really nice looking fusion. I'm a really big fan of that one. Looks like some type of Yu-Gi-Oh character. Now that we made it through the Silph Co building, trying to stop Team Rocket, before Dirty wants to battle us. He starts off with a Nidogeot. We start off with Jet. I just keep using some Shockwaves. He tries to use Earth Power, which actually can't hit me because I do have Levitate, since Gengar has the Levitate ability. I just keep spamming Shockwave, and eventually I take it out. Next out is his Electabuzz. So I swap into Roman. I think Roman will be able to pretty much counter this since he's part Grass type, and he eventually just takes him out with 2 hits while still being in the green. I then swap into Luna. He swaps into his Tauros, which actually intimidates me, which is actually going to be a big problem, but I just keep trying to attack. I use a Blaze Kick, a Rock Tomb, use another Rock Tomb. I just keep lowering his speed, trying to get some good damage off before I eventually get taken out. Next up, I send in Mason. Mason uses an Aqua Tail. He keeps using Bulk Up. I crunched him. I put him down to the red before eventually getting 1 hit. So I send in Jet, who takes him out. Next up is a Starbra. So I just decide to use a quick Sucker Punch. Don't do anything because he used Confuse Ray. This time I use another one and it actually hits him before I eventually get taken out by Power Jump. So I swap into Sage. Sage takes a lot of damage before eventually taking it out. Now it's his last Pokemon, Bastiki. So I swap into Roman, try and use some Leaf Blades on it, put him to the red before eventually getting taken out. So I swap into Sage to try and finish him off. I use a Payback. Somehow he gets put to 1 HP even though he was already in the red, before I eventually take him out with another move. After this, Sage ends up evolving into probably one of the coolest fusions of the whole video. It might actually be in the running for my probably favorite of the whole video. Now it's time to stop Giovanni and save the Silph Co building. Dirty decides to join us for this battle, and we go at him 2v1. He starts off with Primarino and Ryros. I start off with Sage, and Dirty starts off with Nidogeot. I use a quick Shadow Ball. Dirty uses the Thrash. They use a couple different moves like Brine, Feather Dance. Don't do too much to us. We all just keep battling back and forth. This one takes a little while before I eventually get poisoned, slowly chipping away at me. But we manage to take out his Ryros, and next up is his Gengar. Gengar uses Outrage, which is going to be a problem, which actually managed to take us out. So we end up swapping into Mason. He keeps using Outrage. Dirty gets a good wing attack on the Primarino to take it out. So next up is the Sand Queen. We try to use Aqua Tail on the Sand Queen, do a little bit of damage to it, We don't do too much. We accidentally use it on the Gengar this time, before eventually getting taken out because he actually double teamed us, using an Earth Power and a Dark Pulse. Now I send out Roman, who gets poisoned. We end up actually double teaming the Gengar to take it out. So last up is his Sand Queen, and that's all that's left. We make quick work of it to eventually defeat Giovanni and stop Team Rocket. As a thank you gift, the head of Silph Co gives us a new prototype ball that he's been working on, the Master Ball. Now that that's done, we head over to the 6th gym and take on Sabrina. On my first attempt, she starts off with Hip Mime. I start off with Sage, which may I say looks really cool. I use a quick Shadow Ball, one-shot it. I use a Shadow Ball in the Esfrion, who I don't do much to, before he actually one-shots me to take me out. So I swap into Jet, use a quick Shockwave, before eventually getting one shot as well. So we swap into Piper. Piper then tries to use a Shadow Ball, doesn't do all that much damage, before I try to use a Psychic, forgetting that it's actually part Umbreon. So I do nothing to it. He one-shots me, so I send in Luna. Luna ends up being able to do some good damage, and eventually taking it out, so she swaps into her Genkazam. Genkazam then outspeeds us, and one-shots with a Shadow Ball. So we go into our second attempt, where it starts again, Hip Mime, Sage. Sage uses a Shadow Ball, doesn't one-shot this time, but after some max potion spamming, I eventually managed to take it out with a Shadow Ball. Next up once again is his Esfrion. I use Shadow Ball again on it, get one-shot again, looking like a repeat of the last attempt, before I swap into Jet. Jet uses a Shockwave, eventually getting one hit again, repeating it once again, but this time I swap into Luna, who gets a good Shadow Ball and eventually takes it out. Next up is his Genkazam, who one-shot Shadow Balls Luna before I swap into Roman. Roman then managed to one-hit Shadow Ball it. I learned a new move before last out is her Labro. I thought this attempt was actually probably going to be over, but I'm able to actually one-hit it to defeat it and take out Sabrina, the 6th gym leader. I make my way over to Cinnabar Island where I head to the Pokemon Mansion and I tell Blaine, the 7th gym leader, to get his butt back in the gym before I eventually start swapping around my team. I decided it was time to just completely revamp and just wipe everybody I already had now and get 6 brand new members. These were our old members. And these are the 6 that I'm going to end up actually adding in now. Before I create all the new fusions, I just wanted to show you real quick the inverse of the Rotom Gengar fusion just because it looks so cool. But first up is Bibarel and Gengar, which is a really nice one. It might be a reference, I'm not 100% sure. Next up is Gengar Marowak, which is another really cool one. Looks like Missing No as well, as the Blaziken did from earlier. Then Umbreon and Gengar, just like the Espeon, is so cool. I actually love the look of this one. I actually think I might put it in the thumbnail. Next up is Victory Bell and Gengar, which actually I think is a Pot of Greed reference from Yu-Gi-Oh! After that, we have Machamp and Gengar, which just looks pretty cool with all the fists floating in the air. It's nothing too crazy. And then Magmortar and Gengar, which looks a little creepy, but it's pretty cool, honestly. So I just thought I would put him to the team. Also, I needed a fire type, so it works. Here's a quick overview of the whole team. I renamed them all back to their original names like I said I was going to do, being Piper, Luna, Jet, Sage, Mason, and Roman. And here's a quick look at all their stats. After grinding them up, I decided it's time to take on Blaine. Blaine starts off with Glue Dash. I start off with Roman. Being part grass type, I just used 2 quick Flame Burst to eventually take it out. Next up, I swap into Sage for her Chardactyl. I actually used Destiny Bond, knowing that this is going to probably just instantly knock me out anyways. Somehow it didn't, but thanks to the Destiny Bond, I actually managed to take it with me. Next up is his 9-9, I swap into Mason, I use a quick Surf, don't do too much damage. He heals, I use Surf, I just keep spamming it, for eventually getting Thunder Waved and Paralyzed, but luckily hold on to 1 HP and surviving. Next up is his Magnon, which I stay in and eventually get taken out. So I swap into Jet, who uses 2 quick Stomping Tantrums to take it out, defeating Blaine, that's 7th gym leader. After defeating him, we head to the south side of the island and find a poor sailor getting his boat stolen by Team Rocket, where we follow in and find out that they're heading to Mount Ember, where they already had the other 2 legendary birds, and they're trying to capture the last one, Moltres, to make a monstrosity of a triple fusion, Zap Molkuno. Eventually, Giovanni Master Balls it, fuses all 3 together, and we go put a stop to it. We tell him to cut it out before he eventually actually attacks us with that triple fusion. So we start off with Roman for this fight, who I use a quick Flame Burst on the Articuno, getting taken to 8 HP before I accidentally use it on the Moltres the next turn instead of the Articuno, which would have actually knocked it out. So I swap into Luna, I use a quick Destiny Bond. I didn't know how this move was going to work, but it managed to take out the Moltres from full HP whenever I fainted. Next up, I did the same exact thing with Sage, where I Destiny Bonded and actually managed to take out the Zapdos part. So next out I send in Mason. I use a quick Shadow Ball on the Articuno, almost take it out, before using another Shadow Ball to actually take it out this time. Those Destiny Bonds might have just saved me, and allowed me to free all 3 of the legendary birds and defeat Giovanni and Team Rocket and make them retreat. Now that that's over, I head back to Cinnabar and make my way to Vermilion City to take on the 8th gym leader, which is actually Giovanni. This fight starts off with him using his Rhyperios and us using Luna. I use a quick Leaf Blade, try to get some good damage. He uses a Sandstorm, puts up a Sandstorm from now on. We use another Leaf Blade, get him to the yellow, before eventually using one last Leaf Blade to take it out. He sends in his Glistar, I leave in Luna. I try to use another Leaf Blade for getting one hit by a Mega Horn. So I swap into Mason, I try to use a Surf, do a little bit of damage before he uses a Poison Jab, which actually poisoned me, and then swaps into Electatrio, who eventually manages to take me out thanks to Discharge, so I swap into Jet. Jet uses a Stomping Tantrum, puts him to 1 HP, he full restores. We kind of go back and forth with this for a little bit, before he eventually just uses the Light Screen instead of a full restore, and we take it out. So I swap into Piper for his Glistar, he uses a Poison Jab, doesn't do much. Honestly, neither one of us really could do anything to each other, so we just kept hitting each other, and eventually he managed to take me out before I put him into the yellow. Next out I send in Sage. I use a quick cross chop and make easy work of it. I should have just done that from the start. He's sending in his Go Champ, so I send in Jet. I use a quick Stomping Tantrum, do almost half his HP, use one more, put him to the red, and then one last Stomping Tantrum to take him out. Last out is his Rylax, so we swap back into Sage, hoping that he's part normal type, so we use a cross chop, to about half his HP. He can't hit us because of Levitate, before using one more cross chop and taking him out, defeating Giovanni and giving us all 8 gym badges. Now it's time to make our way west of here and to the Elite Four. Before I had the chance to do that, I actually got stopped once again by my rival 30, who wanted to battle me one more time before I take on the Elite Four. This battle starts off with him using the Dojiot once again, and us using Luna, which is actually a really bad matchup for us. But I stay in, I use a quick Shadow Ball before taking almost all my HP. I put him to the red with a Shadow Ball. I get lucky he uses an Earth Power, and I have Levitate so he doesn't hit me, so I managed to actually be able to take him out. I swap into Jet because he's bringing out his Electados. I try using Stomping Tantrum to hopefully get a one hit, put him down to the yellow before he paralyzes me. He then uses a Hydra Pump on me, puts me to 4 HP, but I managed to actually make it through the paralyze, hit him, and knock him out. Next up is his Talk Cute, so I swap into Piper for a quick and easy one hit. After that, I then swap into Mason for his Maghorn, who I managed to easily one hit thanks to Surf, before he takes out his Bastikey. This Bastikey is super tanky, and he just kind of eats some of my attacks, and I keep trying to use Blizzard, and I never actually managed to be able to even hit that move, so I swap back to using Surf. He doesn't end up using much on me, attack-wise I should say, before I eventually take him out with 2 more Surfs. So last out is a Starkazam, so I swap in Roman, who gets confused. I keep hitting myself. Luckily he's not using any actual moves on me, so I managed to use 1 Dark Pulse, but eventually get taken out. So I swap into Sage, he uses a Future Sight, a Calm Mind, and I easily managed to take him out, defeating Dirty, and now actually making our way through Victory Road and into the Elite Four. First up in the Elite Four is Lorelei. Lorelei starts off with her Magong. I accidentally started with Luna, not even thinking about it, getting easily one hit, but I managed to do a little bit of damage in the process before I swapped into Jet, who I actually taught Earthquake, and I just keep using Earthquake till I eventually managed to take it out, but being put to 26 HP in the process. Next out is her Tendo Star, so I swap into Piper. Piper gets some good damage off, puts it into the yellow, before eventually taking it out, but I get put to 35 HP, yet another Pokemon into the red. For her Gingrowth, I swap into Roman. Roman easily one-shots it before she sends out her Weros, who I actually miss my attack on, and then he easily manages to one-hit me. So I swap into Sage. Sage gets a one-hit cross chop, but taking a good amount of HP in the process, getting put into the yellow before she swaps into her Mambro, who easily takes us out. So we swap into Mason. She full restores. I use Surf. I use Surf again. Don't do too much. She uses an Ice Fang, before I eventually managed to take it out with a Shadow Ball. I should have just done that in the first place, to defeat Lorelei. Next up is Bruno. Bruno leads off with his Mavire. I start off with Luna once again. I use a quick Leaf Blade, use Leaf Blade one more time. He doesn't do too much to me before I eventually thought I was going to actually be able to take it out, but it gets put to 1 HP, full heals. I keep using Leaf Blade. I keep using different attacks, get him into the yellow before eventually getting taken out. So I swap into Jet. He actually takes back Mavire, sends in his Sicross, who I managed to get some good damage off with an Earthquake, and eventually just take it out after a little bit of back and forth. Next up is a Steel Champ. I use Earthquake again, put him to the yellow. He does good damage to me before I eventually take it out with another Earthquake. Next up is a Maro-chan, who I use Earthquake on again. I just keep using it. He doesn't have anything that really hits me because I'm part Ghost type. He keeps trying to use normal type moves, so I eventually just take it out for free. Next up is his Magnix, who manages to take me out. I get a little bit of damage off before I send in Roman, who uses Fire Blast, puts it to 1 HP before eventually just quickly taking out with a Shadow Ball. Now last out is his Mavire again, so I just keep in Roman, use a Shadow Ball, and take it out, defeating Bruno, and now it's time to take on Agatha. Agatha starts off with her Mismabat. I start off with Mason. I try to use a Blizzard on it. I don't actually manage to hit it. I get confused, hit myself in confusion, for eventually just getting easily taken out with a Wing Attack, not even doing any damage in the process. So I send in Jet. Jet uses a Rock Tomb, but manages to get Shadow Ball one hit, and I don't even get to do any damage again. So I send in Piper, use a Shadow Ball, get some good damage before getting confused, hurt myself in confusion, Shadow Balled, taken to the yellow before eventually taking it out. Next out is Organdoom. I keep in Piper. I try to use an attack on her, before eventually she just takes me out with a Shadow Ball. So I send in Roman, who I use a Shadow Ball with, but I get one hit, not even doing any damage in the process, so I send in Sage. Sage I try to cross chop with, get one hit, don't do anything again, and then I send in Luna, who I know is just going to get easily one hit. I try to Shadow Ball, it Shadow Balls me first, and one hits me. Knowing how bad this fight went, I decided to go restart the Elite Four entirely, and just level up my team to the actual level cap of level 59. Now that my full team's here, I get back up to where I was, and take on Agatha once again. This time the fight goes very different. I start off with Piper this time. She still starts off with her Mismabat. I just keep trying to use Shadow Balls on it. It Fuse Rays me, confuses me, but doesn't end up doing any damage to me before I eventually take it out. Next up is her Gendoom, who I just use Shadow Ball on again. Keep using Shadow Ball before it eventually Destiny Bonds me to take me out with it. So now that Piper's fainted, I send in Roman, and she sends in her Umter, who I just use a couple flamethrowers on to take out, while getting put down to 63 HP. So I swap into Luna for her Snorgar, who I use Leaf Storm on. It Shadow Punches me, does good damage, so I decided I'm going to give her a taste of her own medicine and use Destiny Bond on it to take it out. So I send in Mason for her last Pokemon Wobgar, do a little bit of damage before it uses Cursed, puts itself into the red, before I use a Surf and easily take it out, defeating Agatha. This was probably the scariest fight, so I think I have a good shot at beating the rest of this. Now it's time for Lance. He starts out with Dragodos. I start off with Mason. I use a quick Blizzard, do nothing to it, for eventually one hit outrages me. So I swap into Luna, use a Leaf Storm, and one hit it this time. Now I swap into Piper for her Toganite. I try to use an attack on it before getting one hit. So I swap into Sage, knowing I have one quick out to this using Destiny Bond to quickly take it out with me once it takes me out. So from there I swap into Jet for her Tyrandactyl, who I use a quick Shadow Ball on, don't do anything to. It uses Agility, so I use Rock Tomb. I just keep using Rock Tombs. It full restores this time. Another Rock Tomb, then it eventually Brave Birds, does a lot of damage to itself, puts me to 23 HP before it eventually swaps out and into a Porydraw. I use a Rock Tomb to just slow it a little bit. I try to use a couple other moves. I don't really end up doing much to it before eventually getting taken out. So I swap into Luna. Luna uses a Leaf Storm, then a Dark Pulse. I put it to the yellow. I just keep spamming Dark Pulse. It eventually uses Recover and Dragon Pulse before I eventually just decide it's time to just Destiny Bond and take it with me. So last out is Roman. Against his Tyrandactyl, I managed to use a Shadow Ball, easily take it out. Last out for him is his Typhnar, who I Shadow Ball once, get some good damage off onto, Shadow Ball again, put it to 1 HP, for eventually it just raises its own stats just to faint, defeating Lance. Now it's time for the champion, our rival, Dirty. Once again, he starts off with his Dojiot like always. I start off with Mason. It Swords Dances, I use Blizzard, it double teams. I actually managed to hit both Blizzards in a row before he sends out his Rhypure Mortar, so I stay in. I use a Quick Surf, do a little over half his HP, before it ends up putting me down to 22 HP, so I just keep spamming Surf, it keeps spamming full restores, and eventually it doesn't full restore, and I just take it out. Next out is his Electrodos, who I swap in Jet for. Jet actually gets one hit Waterfall. I thought I was going to be able to get an Earthquake off onto him, but I don't, so I swap into Luna, who gets hit by the Waterfall, tanks it, for eventually one-shot Leaf Storming it. So Dirty swaps into his Bastikey. I try to use Leaf Storm, do a little bit, get put down to 41 HP, before eventually it takes me out after I put it down to the yellow. Now it's time for me to send in Roman. It full restores. I try to use Flamethrower, thinking like it's going to do a lot since he's part steel, but he's actually not apparently. So I just start spamming whatever little moves I have. I don't do too much damage to it. It keeps on healing itself with leftovers, which is really annoying. I just keep spamming my different moves, like Flamethrower, till I eventually run out of power points. I use a Sludge Bomb and get a lucky poison onto it to eventually be able to take it out with 69 HP left. Nice. Now it's time for his next Pokemon, Starkazam, who manages to take us out with a Surf. So we swap into Piper. Piper manages to do some good damage to it, put it down to the red. For some reason it uses Calm Mind and allows me to easily take him out. Now it's his last Pokemon, Tautar. So I keep in Piper. I try to use a Dark Pulse. I actually managed to hit it through a Confusion, one-shot it, defeating Dirty, our rival, making us the new champion of Pokemon Infinite Fusion using only Gengar fusions. If you made it this far into the video, I would like to say thank you very much, and I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, a like and subscribe are very much appreciated. I'll hopefully be making more challenges on Infinite Fusion and other games in the near future, so stick around if you want to see more. Also, make sure to leave a comment down below which fusion was actually your favorite of the Gengars today. I've got to say, mine was probably the double Gengar fusion, but I don't know, there's actually a lot of good ones in this one. Anyways, until next time.